gorgeous girls spend all of March reading Irish books, Irish authors, Irish settings, to the extent where it's now April. Well, in a couple of hours it'll be April, and I have absolutely no idea what to read that isn't by an Irish author. So today's March the 30th. I just finished Anybody Out There by Marion Keyes. And for the month of April, I want to kind of focus on arcs, books that I have been sent by NetGalley, things like that. Except that there are a couple that I have the arc for, but I also have a finished copy because they have been published so long ago that now I've got a full copy of it. One of the contenders is Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. I actually got the arc of this on NetGalley approved 2 days ago, despite having requested it over a year and a half ago, I am assuming. This may be due to the fact that the paperback, like the smaller paperback, I think this is the trade paperback version, the smaller size paperback is coming out in April. So I think that is why my request was looked at again and said like, oh yeah, we like you. So tomorrow is Thursday. It is the 31st of March. And I know that March is not in April, but bear with me. I'm going into the office. It's going to be the first day that I'm back in work since having some surgery. I'm having lunch with some colleagues, but we're also going out for a team dinner in the evening. So I don't know how many instances to read I'm going to get, but I'm going to really try and get a little bit of this read at least. I might even start it just now going to bed. I might start it before I go to sleep in the evening. But I'm going to put my phone here on my bookshelf and crawl into bed and bring this with me. So what is this actually about? I'm really glad that you asked. This is about Ruthie, who is 24, but she kind of lives like a 94-year-old. And she's working in a retirement centre, kind of like as a nurse helper kind of situation. But a man named Teddy comes to the nursing home that she's working in, I believe as like another home help or on kind of a community service thing. I think that's the situation that he's here for. And it then turns into an enemies to lovers, I believe, that they don't get along well at the start. And then, of course, sparks start to fly afterwards. Do some hot girl shit, but before I do that, let me tell you about it's upside down, this book, or at least I will attempt to, because I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. I am very close to the end. Actually, I'm on chapter 24, but I listened to chapter 24 and a bit of 25 on an audiobook while I was doing grocery shopping this morning. If I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire right now, and the €1 million question was, what happened in this book? I would have to leave. I would have to stand up out of the chair and give the money back. I feel like this book just happened. Maybe I overhyped it in my head because it's the same author as The Hating Game, which is one of my favorite romances. And I was just like, oh my god, I'm going to have a great time. It's going to be really steamy. There's going to be a lot of chemistry between the two of them. It's going to be a really great read. It's going to suck me in right from the start. But it just didn't. Ruthie in this book is, as I said earlier, written as like a 25-year-old going on 125, which I didn't love. I felt like her character was written really strangely. I very much would struggle to tell you what this book was about, as you can see, because it's very much a head empty, no thoughts. Don't even know if there's vibes situation. So I think we're going to have to knock this down to a good for you, not for me, and just move on. I have a friend who I think is really going to enjoy this because it's not very steamy and she doesn't enjoy a lot of steamy books, but it's just not my thing. And I lost my book back again. But luckily I have my finger on the page. So I put up a poll on my Instagram a couple of minutes ago, maybe about half an hour ago, to say I'm torn between two NetGalley arcs that I have. So Book Lovers by Emily Henry or The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. So I'm going to let my followers decide what I'm going to read. I'm going to leave that up for maybe a couple of hours, look back at it. Maybe it's just gone 3:30 now, so I'm going to look back at it about 5 or so, and I'll figure out what I want to read from there. It's got undertones. I like it. Okay, so it's just exactly 5:15. I haven't actually looked at the poll since. So let me take a look at what it says. I think Beth O'Leary's probably going to win it out. But let me see. Let me take a look at what the actual winner is. Okay, yes. 56% of people have said that I should read The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. So that answers that question. Okay, I'm going to go get my Kindle and settle in my cup of tea and start reading. I search through my Kindle and get it out. Let's discuss what the book is actually about. So this is about 3 different women. There's definitely a Siobhan, there's definitely a Julia, and I think there's like a Magda. And all 3 of them are dating the same person, but don't know that they are all dating this same person. And I think it all blows up on like Valentine's Day, where they realize that they've all been dating the same person, but didn't know that the others existed. It gives me kind of, I think it's called The Other Woman vibes, that film that had Cameron Diaz and Kate Upton and somebody else in it. It gives me that kind of a vibe. Admittedly, Beth O'Leary has burned me the last time that we met. I didn't particularly love The Road Trip. I think that's because it's a second chance romance, and second chance romances and we can be a little bit hit and miss. I'm going to go into this very much open-minded, not judging anything, and I'm just going to give it my best shot. I'm going to make spag bol for dinner this evening, and you can come and watch if you want to. And also, my home county back in Ireland is playing a sports final this evening, so I'm going to watch that. Also, I have a video call with a friend from my MA in Cardiff this evening. So this is a pretty full-on hectic evening, but thankfully tomorrow is pretty light on activities. So I think whatever I don't get the opportunity to read today, I've got all day tomorrow. Late to the point that I should actually be asleep, but I have been reading this book for the last 2 or 3 days. I think I started it on Sunday. It's now Tuesday night before I go to sleep. But I wanted to say one thing that has just completely evaporated for this book. So, with a name like Siobhan, I don't know why it didn't catch with me when I was reading the blurb initially, but Siobhan is a character in this book who's Irish. And I always get a little bit skeptical and apprehensive when I am reading a book featuring an Irish character that's not written by an Irish author, because people tend to have this kind of Hollywood-inspired dream version of Ireland in their heads, where we don't have electricity and we've never heard of running water and cars only came to Ireland last year. That's not a thing. I was a little bit scared going into this book because of the aforementioned kind of dream Ireland that people have kind of built up in their heads, and whether or not we were going to be given the Hollywood treatment in this book. Allow me to dramatically read you this phrase. And I love you, so we're going, Siobhan says, pulling away from Fiona. Come on, let's peel Marlena off whichever beautiful woman she's currently shifting. Shifting, says Fiona, tucking her arm into Siobhan's as they head back towards the building. Really? Shifting is slang for kissing in Ireland, and it was super popular when I was around 14, 15, 16. That was kind of the phrase that you would use if you wanted to, if you were coming on to somebody. It would be like, would you shift my friend? No. Okay, will you shift me? Okay. Now to see that in a book, done well, written perfectly, it's actually given this book a whole other star. Like, I don't know, I haven't run it through Callpile just yet, so I don't know exactly what kind of a rating this book is going to get, but whatever it was, it's already been bumped up another couple of points. I'm going to go to sleep now, but I am really happy with how this book is going. When I finish it, likely tomorrow, I'll check in and tell you the whole story. I'm pretty much almost finished with The No Show by Beth O'Leary. You last saw me roughly 10 hours ago when I had just made a realization about the book. Like I said with thrillers, I kind of made a prediction at the start of the book where I thought that it would go, and having read the other 3 Beth O'Leary books that are also out, I should have known that whatever predictions that you make, she's gonna go, ha, psych, halfway through the book and end up bringing you somewhere completely different. And that is what happened here, basically. There are 3 women in this book. I did get the names wrong at the start. It's Siobhan, Jane, and Miranda. Siobhan's a life coach, and she's living in Dublin, but she comes over to London every now and then, and she and Joseph hit up, and they hook up on the first Friday of every month, and she and Joseph hook up whenever they are together in London, and at the start of the book, he has stood her up on Valentine's Day. Miranda's a tree surgeon. She's one of the only female tree surgeons in Britain, and she's supposed to meet Joseph for lunch on Valentine's Day, but again, he stands her up too. And then you have Jane, who is volunteering in a charity shop in a little village called Winchester. I believe that's a real place. And he also stands her up as like a +1 to a wedding that she's going to. She like asks him to go as a friend to have like emotional support and stuff like that. As I do with thrillers, I actually made a prediction at the start of this book, and I wrote it in here, and I said, okay, I think this is where this storyline is going, and I think that this is why this is happening to this particular person, and I think that this is why this is going on. I was so wrong. Friends, I was so wrong. The thing about Beth O'Leary's books is that she gets you into this false sense of security where you're like, oh, I know exactly where we're going. I know exactly what's happening. This is exactly where this is going to go. And then she just brings you completely out of left field. And it's totally different to where you think we're actually, and it's totally different where we actually end up. But I loved it. I really enjoyed this book. For me, it was kind of a return to form because I didn't love the road trip so much. I think it's because I don't love a second chance romance. Also, I didn't love Rodney, this side character who like jumps in with the guys on their like trip to the wedding. But I've heard a couple of people didn't love it, so I think it might just have been a little dip in form, and she's way back up to where she usually is now. There is another book that I'm reading that I should probably tell you about. A couple of days ago, I started the audiobook for Constellations by Sinead Gleeson. I started listening to it within the last maybe hour or 2 of work on Monday, but yesterday was chock full of meetings. Today is also going to be a little bit chock full of meetings, so I won't have a lot of time to listen to them. So I've just been doing podcasts while working to kind of not have to get in and out of a story. So I think tomorrow I'm going to go straight back into it, and Friday I'm going to go straight back into it because tomorrow and Friday are a little bit quieter, so I don't really have to dip in, dip out every now and then, but I am enjoying that so much. It's a collection of essays written by Sinead about her life, about her illnesses, about her disability, about
At the stage that I'm at, it's writing about a trip that she made to Lourdes, which a lot of Irish Catholic people will have gone to. Lourdes is kind of seen as having some kind of healing properties for Catholics. It's kind of a place of healing and recuperation for a lot of Catholic people. My own grandparents have made a couple of pilgrimages to Lourdes with our local diocese, and they have really enjoyed it. They've taken a lot from it. So I do know what Lourdes can mean to a lot of people. It's a really interesting book. She narrates the audiobook herself, which I always like because it gives you a little bit extra, but I'm really enjoying this so far.
Coincidentally, this bag is full of lovely things, but they are leaving my house because this is the books that I hauled just on Monday gone, and I now need to go and bring them to the local open library near my house. I think it's like an old phone box that has just been repurposed with loads of shelves, and it's actually in a really cool area. So I'm going to bring you with me and see what you think of it. This is such a first world problem, but I cannot decide what to read. So I'm going to do, for the very first time ever, a try a first chapter. And I'm between 3 books at the moment. I cannot decide between Ashley Herring Blake's Delilah Green Doesn't Care, between Reputation by Lex Croucher, or Book Lovers by Emily Henry. So right now I am watching some sprints run by Lexie from Books with Lexie and Michelle from Michelle's Library. And there's a half an hour sprint happening right now. So in this 30 minutes, I am going to read the first chapter of all 3 of those books. And hopefully by the end of the 30-minute sprint, I'm going to know which one I want to continue with. Except what happens if I fall in love with all 3 of them? Took a sprint and maybe another 10 minutes, but we have a winner. Michelle's gonna love this. I am hooked. I read the first chapter of this, the first chapter of Reputation, and the prologue of Book Lovers. This is the one that I most want to know what's happening next. If I had to rank all of them, this is the one that I most want to know what's happening next. So Delilah Green is at the top of my TBR. Then Book Lovers is in second place because I am interested and intrigued to find out what's happening, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I need to know it immediately. Whereas with Reputation, I was kind of plodding along with this one the most of the 3 of them. So I think of the 3 of these, that's the one that I'm probably going to leave to last. And I'm going to keep cracking on with Delilah Green. So this is about Delilah, who is a struggling photographer living in New York. And her stepsister Astrid is getting married. And Delilah has been kind of roped in to take pictures for the wedding, for the bachelorette party, for some bridal shower stuff, for like loads of pre-wedding stuff as well. So Delilah has to go back to her small town home. She hasn't been there in about 5 years, and she doesn't get along with her stepsister. She also doesn't get along with her stepmother, but there is that kind of familial duty that she feels like she has to go, and also she's going to get paid big money to do this wedding. So she has just left another woman in bed, and what I thought was absolutely hilarious is Delilah has absolutely no idea what this woman's name is. So we are getting about 20 different permutations of names that begin with L. So you've got Leah or Lydia or Lila or London or Leanne. And we've got loads of them being cycled through in just this first chapter. I believe from having read like the first couple of words of chapter 2 already, as I was putting my bookmark in, that this is going to be a dual narrative book, which I am a big fan of. So I am very intrigued to see how this one continues.
I've not spoken yet today, so how this is going to go is genuinely anybody's guess. Today is Sunday, it's the 10th of April. It's just coming on 10:15, And in about an hour, so 11, half 11 my time, I am going to be jumping on some reading sprints run by Mel from a book fiend named Mel, who is from Australia, so it'll be about half 7 in the evening her time. There's a couple of other booktubers who are also going to be hosting the sprints. I cannot for the life of me remember their names. I'm going to go find out what they are. Okay, so it's Earl Grey Books, Lore Lullabies, Reading with Merb, and myself and Mel. I am still reading Delilah Green. I think I'm about 50% of the way through. I'm not very good at judging distances in books, but I think that's about 50% roughly. So it's very likely that I will get this book finished while I'm on the sprints. Now, it's getting to a particularly steamy scene, and it's a one bed scene, and that's like my kryptonite when it comes to books. So I might turn into a little bit of a red-faced tomato while we're reading these books. But I am a little bit thinking about what I'm going to read for when I'm finished, because it's likely that I will finish Delilah Green while I'm on these sprints, and if I do, I need something that I'm going to read after that. My thoughts are, there's The Appeal by Janice Hallett, which is the pick for April for the I Should Have Read That book club. That is a book club run by my friends Shannon from 155 Books, from Carys, from Carys' Corner, and Charlotte from Coiny Reads. Also, I realised recently that I have become super German, because this is how Germans count to 3, this is how Irish people count to 3. Take my passport off me. So I've got that, that's the first option. I've also got to read something that has big, little, large, small, some kind of size adjective in the title for the Buzzword-a-thon for the April book, and I don't necessarily know what I'm going to pick. I've got a couple of options on my Kindle. I have got The Little Barn of Dreams by Lucy Knott. I have got Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. I'm pretty sure I've got a big book there. I've probably got Big Lies in a Small Town by Diane Chamberlain somewhere. If not, I'm going to get it off the library. I've also got the other 2 books that you would have seen in the Try Your First Chapter book that I wanted to go back to. So Book Lovers by Emily Henry was the next one up that I wanted to get to. And then Reputation by Lex Croucher, which is on my spring TBR. So I'm not entirely sure what it is that I'm going to read, but I'll let you know. Will be very heavily sponsored by caffeine, because I failed to fall asleep until about 2:30 last night. So that journey for me. Last night, before I eventually fell asleep, I did manage to finish Delilah Green. There she is. Bookmark is just in it for decorative purposes now. I really loved this book, and I was talking to my friend Michelle about this, who's also read this book. I don't particularly enjoy, understand, agree with the third act breakup that was in this book. It's a romance book, so you're kind of expecting a third act breakup, but I don't think that I loved this one. It felt a little bit, okay, I need to put in the miscommunication trope, I need to do this just because I need to have it in there. It felt kind of shoehorned in, and I didn't gel with it. But overall, I utterly adored this book. It's probably one that I'm going to keep forever. It's probably one that I'm going to reread either next year or the year after. I don't like to reread books in the same year because it feels a bit reductive to do that. I've made a decision on what to do about the Buzzword-a-thon. I'm going to read It's Okay I'm Wearing Really Big Knickers by Louise Renison, which is the second book of the Georgia Nicholson series. However, to get to book 2, I also have to reread book 1 because it feels counterproductive to not read the first one. Luckily, book 1 is only about 4 hours on an audiobook. I've got the audiobook from Scribd ready to go. So, the plan for today, I have one meeting in 15 minutes. That's going to last for about half an hour, and then the rest of the day is meeting free, basically. I am going to listen to the rest of Constellations. I think I have about 3 hours left of Constellations by Sinead Gleeson. Yeah, I've got about 3 hours left of Constellations. Gonna get that finished. Then we'll start on to Angus Thongs and Full Frontal Snogging, which is the first of the Georgia Nicholson books. Then when that is finished, we'll go on to the second one, It's Okay I'm Wearing Really Big Knickers. I'm also going out for dinner this evening with one of my friends. We haven't seen each other in a while. She's going away for a couple of weeks, so we're going to have a little bit of a catch up. And I am very excited for where we're going for dinner. Skincare time. Today's the 13th of April. I have finished the 2 Georgia Nicholson audiobooks that I wanted to listen to, and I've picked up Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I'm about 20% into it by now. The lighting in that corner was appalling, so you can sit here for now. The Georgia Nicholson books have aged like milk. There's a lot of homophobia, specifically lesbophobia. There's a lot of slut shaming. There's a lot of fat shaming, particularly in the first book. And there's also quite a lot of times where Georgia says, oh, my eyes are way too brown, or my skin is way too soft, or my whatever. Where you're like, she's clearly a very good looking teenager. She's just being a bit melodramatic. Georgia also has quite a lot of insecurities about boys, and that is definitely something that I can associate with and can register with. But Georgia, in the first 2 books alone, has had more boyfriends than I have had in my entire life. I will also say, Georgia and Dave the Laugh is still my absolute favourite couple of all time, and I will die on that hill. But also, I love Rosie and Sven, and I would love to see like a side book on Rosie and Sven and how they are getting on. I did do recently a little kind of characters I'd like an update on video, but I think I'd like to see Rosie and Sven in that as well. I did also say Georgia, but I would love to see Rosie and Sven in it. I'd love to see, where are they living? Are they married? Are they even still together? Maybe they kind of drifted apart because Sven went back to Sweden, but they meet up again. So that's that done. Book Lovers, as I said, I'm about maybe 20-25% in, and I am really starting to get a vibe on this one. It's definitely enemies to lovers. It's got a lot of You've Got Mail vibes because they are working as publishers. They're kind of sending manuscripts, ideas between each other and talking about like the books that have come into their publishing houses over the last couple of weeks. I've heard whispers that this is a little bit steamy, and I didn't think that Emily Henry's books previously were very steamy, so I'm hoping that this is kind of a step up into the kind of area that I like to live in. As for audiobooks, I have absolutely no idea where I'm supposed to go from here. I don't think I want to finish out the Georgia Nicholson series. I think I'm going to leave that. But I do want to just have something in my ears while I'm at work. I've got to go and pick up a parcel today, and I also want to go and get my library card sorted out. And the library is kind of close to my house, so I'm going to walk down there a little bit. So I would like to have something to listen to on my way, but I haven't really decided what that something is going to be. It might end up just being a podcast. I only ever seem to talk to you when I'm doing my skincare, but I wanted to wrap up this vlog. It's Wednesday evening. I've lost count of what days are today. Today's Wednesday evening. I've been convinced all day that it is Thursday, which is going to be a big surprise when I wake up tomorrow morning and it's Thursday all over again. I didn't go finding an audiobook today because I kept listening to a couple of podcasts. I actually listened to a couple of podcasts talking about Delilah Green. Got a bit more of an appreciation for the book, got a bit more of an understanding of the book. Loved getting some other people's opinions and ideas about the book, which is always something that I really admire and appreciate when I'm reading a book. How many times did I say the word book in the last 20 seconds? Keeping going with Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and I'm actually really starting to enjoy it. I know a couple of people whose tastes are similar to mine, who enjoy the same kind of books that I enjoy. They have already gotten an arc as well. They've already read the arc, and they have genuinely loved this. Somebody, I think, said that they preferred this one to beach reads. think it was beach reads that they mentioned, which I think I preferred to You and Me on Vacation. So if this is better than beach reads, I am in for a fucking trip. Okay, anyway, tomorrow is Thursday, apparently, and it's the last day of work before the Easter holidays, so I am out of office from Friday until Monday. I'm gonna go to the library tomorrow. You will see the footage of that in the April wrap-up vlog, but I'm going to take you with me, and I'm going to see what kind of books they've got on the shelves, what the English language section is like, because I'm not expecting it to be massive, but I would be impressed if it was a little bit bigger than what I'm expecting in my head. And I'm going to go through the shelves and just see if there's anything that catches my eye, and if it does, I'm going to bring it home. That is how April has gone so far. I don't even remember how many books I've read. If I had to count off the top of my head, I think it's 5, which is not bad going for the middle of April. However, also in this month, I got to the halfway point, the 25 prompts ticked off point of the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge. Don't start applauding me just yet, because there's a lot of the prompts that I'm probably not going to tick off. There's a lot of them that have to do with sci-fi. There's a lot of them that have to do with fantasy. Those aren't genres that I read a lot from, so ticking those off is going to be quite the challenge for me. But let's see if I find something that fits into it and that I really like reading. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.